What's happening in Ukraine as far as corruption is concerned? Ukraine rocked by corruption scandal. Wave of top officials resign. This is today's news, January 25th. Sports cars, mansions, and luxury vacations as people suffered. Tyler Durden, Zero Hedge reports. The Ukrainian government Tuesday confirmed the resignation of multiple high-ranking officials amid large-scale corruption allegations in what's being called the biggest mass resignation and graft scandal since the Russian invasion began. Some dozen officials have quit their positions after a huge political shakeup over allegations and probes into cases ranging from bribery to mismanagement of aid funds for purchasing food, embezzlement, to driving expensive cars while common people suffer under wartime conditions. A top presidential advisor and 4 deputy ministers, among these 2 defense officials, along with 5 regional governors, were forced out of their posts, and among the regional governors to step down include officials overseeing regions which have seen intense fighting, including the Zaporizhia and Kherson regions where Russian forces have lately reported gains. In reference to the announcement by a senior government official, Oleg Nemchikov, International Reports detail the following list: Deputy Prosecutor General Oleksiy Simonenko, Deputy Minister for Developing of Communities and Territories Ivan Lukerio, Deputy Minister for Development of Communities and Territories Vyacheslav Negoda, Deputy Minister for Social Policy Vitaly Muzichenko, and the regional governors of Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhia, Kiev, Sumy, and Kherson. And separately, the Defense Ministry had earlier announced the resignation of Deputy Minister Vyacheslav Shapovalov, who was in charge of the Army's logistical support, on the heels of accusations it was signing food contracts at inflated prices. In this case, regarding the food contracts, Shapovalov is accused of signing a deal with an unknown shady firm in his role as Deputy Defense Minister. His is the most notable and visible resignation. Crucially, he would have had no small part in overseeing the billions of dollars flowing from the pockets of the U.S. and European taxpayers as authorized defense aid. He purchased military rations and inflated prices in what appears a scheme to line the pockets of contractors and potentially involved kickbacks to himself. While the Defense Ministry is still trying to downplay this as technical errors, Politico reviewed of the details to the scandal said an expose from the Ukrainian news website ZNUA revealed last week that the Defense Ministry purchased overpriced food supplies for its troops. For instance, the ministry bought eggs at 17 hryvnias per piece, while the average price of an egg in Kiev is 7 hryvnias. According to ZNUA, a contract for food procurement for soldiers in 2023 amounted to 13.16 billion hryvnias, as 328 million euros. This is 2 to 3 times higher than current rates for such food items, reports say. Shapovalov's resignation letter indicated he's stepping down so as not to pose a threat to the stable supply of the armed forces of Ukraine as a result of the campaign of accusations related to the purchase of food services. There's also the deputy head of the Zelensky administration, the he's very young, I don't know, I read how old he was, I think he's 34. The head of Zelensky administration, Kyrylo Tymoshenko, who stands accused of a living lavish wartime lifestyle. Many current mainstream media reports on Tuesday are buying some of the key verified details. For example, BBC writes simply that Tymoshenko was implicated in several scandals during his tenure, including in October last year when he was accused of using a car donated to Ukraine for humanitarian purposes. But starting in early December, local Ukrainian outlets, angered at the posh lifestyle of Ukrainian leaders at a moment tens of millions were without power, food, and everything, jobs, amid Russian aerial bombardment in the nation's power grid, began confirming that Tymoshenko drove high-end sports cars in and out of the capital to and from mansions, which typically range in the cost of $10,000 to $25,000 rents per month. And we have various photos published in the New York Voice of Ukraine. In the New Voice of Ukraine, we published in Yahoo News early December of last year, showing Tymoshenko frequently behind the wheel of his shiny new Porsche Taycan. And one outlet published the photo series entitled "Not the Martial Law of Kyrylo Tymoshenko, Deputy Head of Ukraine's Office of the President." As another example, Western MSM, seeking to downplay or soften this latest wave of graft-related forced resignations, the AFP writes, Ukraine has long suffered endemic corruption, including among the political elite, but efforts to stamp out graft have been overshadowed by Moscow's full-scale war that began in February, and yet officials like Tymoshenko were spotted around Kiev and oligarchs' neighborhoods driving luxury sports cars for months throughout the year. Additionally, there is this laughable, embarrassing line out of AFP reports. Kiev's Western allies, who have allocated billions of dollars in financial and military support, have been pushing for anti-corruption reforms for years, sometimes as a precondition for aid. From a government supposedly pushing anti-corruption reforms for years to over $100 billion in U.S. defense and foreign aid being pledged to Kiev coffers over the past year, to now this from within the heart of Zelensky administration. So it doesn't stop at posh and expensive cars, but the controversy has even extended to luxury vacations abroad as Ukrainians suffer the deprivation of war at home. The Department of Simonenko, a deputy prosecutor general, comes after media reports that he spent a holiday in Spain this winter, reportedly using a car belonging to a Ukrainian businessman. The government has, as a result, now reportedly barred top officials from vacationing abroad as a result of the scandal. Just prior to the wave of resignations, another official named Vasyl Loizinski was accused of receiving bribes to facilitate, quote-unquote, the purchase of generators at greatly hiked-up prices. Crucially, Loizinski, as Deputy Minister of Infrastructure and Communities Development, would have also been directly involved in overseeing how billions of dollars in Western humanitarian and infrastructure assistance gets doled out. Commenting on this, mainstream media is now belatedly acknowledging the fact that it has long been well known, but which would get a person cancelled in public discourse if they dared point it out. Transparency International ranked Ukraine 122 out of 180 in its corruption ranking for 2021. The AFP now writes the second most corrupt in Europe is Ukraine, with Russia the most at 136. And now Ukraine's Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov is under scrutiny related to the growing probe and scandal. Meanwhile, as news of the widening scandal hits world headlines, Zelensky, addressing the Chamber of Commerce meeting in Boca Raton today, Zelensky thanks BlackRock, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and others for their support of Ukraine, adds that sending Ukraine heavier weapons like Abrams tanks represents a big business opportunity for U.S. companies. No kidding. What about the rest of the world? Russia is not going to accept this. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box.